Hello and welcome to the 26th video that I'll be posting in my Unity platformer tutorial series. And in today's video, we will be discussing about pause menu, and we're also going to be discussing about a button so that our player can actually close the application. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create the pause menu for our game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my scenes here, going to go to my game level 1, and in here, I'm gonna go to my canvas. I'm gonna right click UI image, and I'm gonna name this image pause menu. Okay, so pause menu will act as both the background and the parent game object for my other components. So I'm just gonna scale this up so it can fit the whole screen. Okay, and I'm gonna change the color to something black and a little bit transparent, like so. Yeah, okay. And then if I disable this, we can see that it's bright. Then when I enable this, it's a little bit darker. Okay. And then inside of pause menu, I'm going to create another image. And I'm going to name this image pause title. And luckily, I've already created my assets for the title here. And I'm just going to create a folder in my assets by right-clicking, by going to the assets, right-click, create folder. And I'm going to name this pause menu assets. Okay. And I'm going to right-click on the folder, show in Explorer. And I'm going to click on it, click on the pause menu assets, and I'm going to paste in my assets. So I'm going to close my Explorer here, and if we go back to our Unity here, click on our pause menu assets folder, and inside of it I have multiple texts that I've created so that I can make the pause menu better. So for the pause title, I can just simply drag in this pause title here, and I'm going to click on preserve aspect, and actually you can use any text you want, you can modify them. And what I did is actually just use a font, and I just went to Adobe Photoshop and just deleted the background so that we can use the pause menu here for the background. And I'm going to access my scale tool by clicking on R and just scrolling up. Click on W so I can gain access to my move tool, and I'm going to move this to the top. Okay, and in the pause title, I'm going to add also other UI images. Okay, I'm going to create another UI image, and I'm going to name this UI image continue title. Continue title. Okay, and the main purpose of the continue title is to allow the player to click on continue so that the game can continue, or he can get out of the pause screen. And I'm going to click on preserve aspect as always because we want the original ratio. Click on R so we can access our scale tool. And I think this is big enough. I'm just going to move it somewhere here at the bottom. And I'm just going to duplicate this because we don't want to really change the position, and we want this to be in the same position as the continue button. And I'm going to name this button here, instead of continue title 1, I'm going to name this button menu title. Menu title. And I'm just going to simply drag in my menu title and replace the continue title button. And there we have it. We have 3 text in our pause screen. And now if we just disable our pause menu like this, as you can see, all of our buttons are gone, but if we enable it once more, we can see that all of these buttons appear again. And this is because they are inside of pause menu, which makes pause menu the parent game object, and if you disable a parent game object, the child will also be disabled. So that is why I like to also create my cherries here into one big group here, so that if I want to disable them, I can just click on this button here and all of the cherries will be gone. And it also helps organize your files and hierarchy. Okay, and now we are going to the programming side of things. But actually, before that, before we actually go to our programming side of things, we want to make sure that both continue title and menu title will be a button. Meanwhile, the pause text here will just act as a title. Meanwhile, the menu and continue text here will be the button. So I'm going to add component. I'm going to add a button. And I'm just going to select color tint and let it be like that. In our menu title, I'm also going to be adding a button. You can customize your buttons by using my methods that I've created in the previous video where I discussed about how to create the 3 methods that can be implemented into our tile screens. And you can use color tint, sprite swap, animation, and it's all up to you. But for the meantime, I'll just leave it be because I want to show the main purpose, which is going to act as buttons. As you can see, if I click on play right now, if I click on continue here, I can click on continue, I can click on menu. Okay, so yeah. So for the meantime, I'm just going to leave this be. The transition I won't change into anything, and the menu I won't change into anything. But you as the viewers can customize it into anything that you want. Now we are going to the scripting part of the video where we are going to script or create a script for this. So we're going to go to our assets, go to our scripts here. We're going to right click, create a C# script, and I'm going to name this pause menu. Okay, and I'm going to double click it so we can open Visual Studios. Okay, and once we have already obtained our pause menu script, we are going to drag that script into our canvas here because we cannot put it in our pause menu because we are going to enable and disable the pause menu when a button is pressed. So we are going to put in our canvas because our canvas is the parent of pause menu. So we are just going to drag in the pause menu script into our canvas right now. And we are going to go back to our C# script and we are going to add some line of code. So the first thing that we're going to add is we are going to type in using Unity Engine dot scene management because we are going to manage the scenes, and we are going to go and type in the top of our void start some variables. First of all is we're going to create a public static bool, and I'm going to name this variable game is pause equals to false. Okay, so this variable here is a public boolean, and the name is game is paused, and it is a true or false statement because booleans cover up true or false statement. However, the static here means that the variable belongs to the class and not the object in Unity. That means that only one instance of it will be created and will remain over any scope. And below it, I'm going to be typing another variable called public game object, and then I'm going to say pause menu. And the reason why I'm typing this a game object is because I will be creating a link between our canvas and our game object here. So I'm just going to drag in my pause menu. And as you can see, it directly connects with our pause menu game object here. And we are going to type nothing in our void start, and we're going to directly type it in our void update because this condition or this pause menu will only occur when our game is running. It cannot be initialized at first. So the first thing is we're going to say that if the input of the player, maybe I'm just going to comment this first, input of player is escape. So if the player is pressing escape button, then we want the program or the computer to make sure that if not in a machine, we want to make sure that if the game is pause is equals to true, right? Because if game is pause equals to true, that means the game is still paused. Then we want it to resume. Resume game. However, if the game is not actually in pause, then we're just saying that the game should be in pause. So I'm going to say pause the game. And I use an else statement here to act as a counter statement for if game is pause equals to true. Okay? And below we're going to create a method so that we can call it or make it much more cleaner in our void update. Okay, and the two methods that I'm going to be creating is resume game and pause game. Okay, so I'm going to type in our keyword, which is public void or private void, and then type in the name of the method. It's going to be resume game, and put in the normal brackets, enter, shift, curly brackets, enter, and it's going to form the paragraph where our code will be executed. And we're going to type in, if we want to resume game, then we want our pause menu. As you can see here, our pause menu to be disabled. So let's just say set active to false. And this is basically trying to say that it will be disabled, and set active is this button right here. So if we go to our pause menu here, this is active, and if it's set active to false, then it's disabled. And then we are going back to our code here, and we're gonna say that the time scale equals to 1f, and we are gonna set our variable game is paused equals to false because we are no longer in pause. And what I'm trying to say in this code here, time.timescale, is a component or a feature in Unity where Unity has this time program where it's gonna update per frame, right? And if we just say time.timescale equals to 1, that is our normal and average timescale. But then if I say in our other method here, public void pause game, then I'm gonna click on enter, shift, curly brackets, create the paragraphs, and I'm gonna say time.timescale equals to 0f. This means that the time is basically stopped and the game is basically not moving in 1 frame per second. And this is basically just saying that the game is paused here. Time is stopped. Just say that. It's basically time is stopped, and this is basically time is moving. Time is moving. Okay, and that's basically it. So in our public void pause game here, I'm gonna say that when we pause game, I want our pause menu to be true because we want to see it. We want the player to see it, or we want to set it to active. So we can just say set active to true, and the time scale will be 0 and time is stopped. And then I'm gonna say that game is pause equals to true. So basically, this code right here, the game is pause equals to true, will act as our condition here. So if the player is clicking on the escape button, then we want to make sure that if the game is paused is true, then currently it's still paused and we want it to resume, because I will be adding the feature that if the player clicks on the escape button twice, it will resume the game once more. And if game is paused is still false, then we will pause the game because the player wants the game to be paused. And we can just simply put in our methods here, resume game and pause game. And now it's time to put in our condition here. And I'm going to ask you guys to do this as part of a challenge because you guys have been doing this a lot of times and it's just putting inputs and it's mostly used in our player. So I'm going to ask you guys to do this as part of a challenge, which is to create a code for if our player input and then if the key that the player is pressing is down, specifically the key code escape, then we want our computer to check if our game is paused is true, then resume the game, or not, pause the game. So pause the video right now and do the challenge. Okay, so if you do know how to do this, great job, because you are really good or getting good in controlling or putting code for our inputs. And this is really important because almost everything in game making will need input controls and command. So good job. For those of you who don't know how to do this, it's fine. It's part of the learning process, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna type in what we want. So we're gonna take in input, and then what do we want? We want to make sure that if a key is down, and specifically the key code dot escape, which means that if the key escape is pressed down, then we want the computer to check game is paused to true. If it's true, it will resume the game, or not, it'll pause the game because game is false. So that means this condition isn't true. Then in this condition, game is paused, equals to false. Okay, and then we are going to create a final method, which is going to be called public void load menu. And this load menu here will be used for our menu button here, so that when we click it, we go back to our level selection. So I'm going to type in time.timescale equals to 1, because if I don't say this, then basically in our pause, our timescale is 0, and if we click on the button, then we will be teleported to our load screen, but the game will not move. Okay, and then we're going to type in scene manager, because we want to load scene, and it's going to ask us for the string scene name or the int build index, but I prefer string scene name because we are more specific. And if we edit our build manager, it's still fine because we have the correct name. And we are essentially done with our programming. If we click on our play button right here, as you can see, the game is still running, but our pause menu is still here. Our pause menu is still visible, and that is because we haven't actually connected the script from our canvas here to our pause title, continue title, menu title. We haven't connected that, and we're gonna do that right now. So for our menu title, we're gonna add a condition, which is if canvas, and then I'm gonna say pause menu load menu, because this will load the menu. And for our continue title, we're gonna take in the canvas again, and the function will be resume game. Okay, and our pause menu will be disabled. So now if we click on our play button right here, click on escape, and the game should be paused. If I click on continue, the game should continue running. And for example, to show you that the game is really paused, I'm going to jump and click on escape at the same time. As you can see, the game is really paused. And if we click on our escape button once more, we can also continue the game, or we can click on the continue button right here. And if we click on our menu here, we are actually going back to our menu scene. And that is going to be it for the pause menu. And we are going to save this, and we are actually gonna go to our scenes level selection, and in our level selection I'm going to be creating a quit button so that the player can quit from the level selection. So I'm gonna go to my canvas. I'm going to go to not game manager, I don't need that. I can just directly go to my canvas here, right click, UI, image, and I'm gonna name this quit title, and I'm gonna drag this to here, and I'm gonna go to my pause menu here, and actually I've created a quit title, so I can just directly drag the quit title to the image here so it can render. and I'm gonna click on preserve aspect as always, so I can have the original ratio. Click on R so I can scale the image. Move by clicking on W. R again to scale up. W again to move a little bit to the side. And yeah, that is good enough. And I'm going to go to my assets here, going to go to my scripts folder. I'm going to right click, create a new C# script. And this C# script will be called level selection buttons. Okay, and the reason why I want to name this level selection buttons is because we already have a level selection script here, and the level selection button will be different from our game manager. That's gonna make sure that we are in the selection. I'm actually going to put it outside that game manager, and we are going to go and drag in our level selection button here to our canvas. And in our level selection button, we are going to double click on that script, and it's going to open this. And what we're going to do is we're going to essentially just be creating a method, which is going to be called public void quit level. Click on enter, shift curly brackets so we can create the paragraph form. And I am just going to be typing in debug.log here, and it's going to say quitting level, add a semicolon as always, enter, and I'm going to type in the code that will actually quit the application, which is going to be application dot quit, and then it's going to be brackets at the end and then semicolon. Okay, so now I'm going to go to my Unity here, click on our quit title, and make sure we equip buttons here, and then we can add on the on click trigger here. I'm going to click on plus so we can add a condition, drag in the canvas because it has the script, and I'm going to go to my level selection buttons, and I'm going to type in quit level here. And if we actually click on our play here, we click on quit, it's going to ask or type in our console quitting level, and that shows that our code here is actually working. But you might be wondering, why is the game not actually quitting for real? Like, it's just saying in our console quitting level. Well, the reason why is because we are in the Unity editor, and inside the Unity editor we cannot quit. The only way we can quit the game is if we actually create our game or finalize and export the game currently. And the way we can do that is if we go to our file here, click on save, we click on our file again and go to our build settings. And as you can see, this is all of our scenes. And if you want to finalize your game, and if you are already truly satisfied with your game, this is where you are going to finalize the game and export the game into a real .exe or application. And the way we can do that is by going to our build settings here, and then we're gonna go to our PC or whatever platform you want to make sure you want to export the game. If you want to make the game into an Android, you can click on an Android, and you gotta install with Unity Hub. And if you want to make it into a PC, then you can just go and do this. If you want to make it into a HTML game, you can do that. And yeah, but for the meantime, we are going to stick with the PC version. Go to the Windows, and we're not going to server build because this is not a multiplayer game. And you just click on build. It's going to ask us where you want to save the file. I'm just going to save the game in Unity Tutorials here, and I'm just going to say Unity Tutorials. You know what, I'm going to go to my desktop here, Unity Tutorials, and I'm going to create a new folder, and it's going to be called Unity Tutorial Build Game. I'm going to double click on it, click on select folder, and it will actually start building. I'm gonna save this first. Close again. And as you can see, Unity is starting to build our game. And of course, when you are building your game, the game will be much longer because this is just a quick tutorial where the game isn't really polished and the scenes are not that great, or my map designs aren't that great, but it will be customizable by you, the viewers, and I'm just showing you how you are going to build the game. And yeah, so now we close on the build settings here. Go to our folder where I save my game file, and inside of this is our platformer, and you can change the title screen, but I'll be covering that in a second. And you actually created your very own title screen and game. If you click on one here, as you can see, we are playing, escape, pause button, menu, quit, and there we have it. You finally created your own Unity platformer game. And that's it actually. I've covered up everything that you'll need to know about Unity platformer making, and you can type it in the comment of the video what you would like to learn for the next episode, or questions that you would like to ask, and I'll try to answer them as fast as I can. And thank you for watching the video. I hope you guys enjoy the series, and I'll see you in the next video where I'll be reviewing all of our code and probably explaining more about our build settings. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next video.